Metformin is a mitochondrial poison. Why are healthy biohackers taking a complex 1 inhibitor to live longer? The massive 21-year pre-diabetes follow-up study just dropped in the Journal of the American Medical Association, and the results are an absolute shock to the anti-aging establishment. Metformin completely failed to outperform a placebo for reducing long-term multimorbidity risk. Meanwhile, intensive lifestyle intervention slashed multiple chronic disease risks by over 20%. We have been sold a metabolic illusion. You cannot chemically poison your way to cellular longevity while ignoring the fundamental laws of mitochondrial bioenergetics.
Okay, welcome to the Health Optimization Medicine podcast. Here is your clinical team for today. Dr. Scott Sherr, board-certified internist and health optimization practitioner. We have Jodi Duval, our naturopathic doctor out of Australia, and our clinical metabolomics specialist for today. Dr. Jup Kuipers, general practitioner from Amsterdam, leading the scientific review today. Dr. Ted Achacoso, founding pioneer of health optimization medicine and practice, joining us from Washington, D.C. And yes, me, Dr. Alan Bookatz, chief of emergency medicine and home health practitioner. Today, we are going after one question. Is your longevity pill silently blunting your mitochondrial fitness? We'll get the mechanism in the next 25 minutes, the clinical protocol, and the one thing most practitioners get wrong. Let's get into it.
All right, so welcome back everyone to the show. I'm Dr. Scott Sherr, your show editor for today. We are diving straight into the deep end of the metabolic pool. For the last 10 years, metformin has been the darling of the anti-aging and biohacking communities. Influential longevity doctors have been handing it out off-label to healthy non-diabetic adults like candy, really like candy, simply to lower blood glucose and mimic caloric restriction. But on June 15, 2026, just recently, the National Institute of Health released the long-term results of the DPPOS study in JAMA. This brings us to our clinical question of the day. Should a metabolically optimized active individual ever use a complex 1 inhibitor to extend their lifespan? Dr. Bookatz.
Thank you, Dr. Scott. Well, here's the real $64,000 question. Conventional and anti-aging medicine, they're locked into preventing disease. That's right. Preventing disease. They look at a healthy person and think, let's get them on some type of medicine or a pill so they don't become diabetic later. But that in there lies the trap. Prevention of disease is still disease-centered thinking. Health optimization is health-centered. So the real question isn't whether this lowers a number that pops up on a glucometer on a simple lab. It's what is this off-label drug actually doing to a healthy cell?
And that is definitely a massive disconnect, Alan. So just because you are not sick does not mean that you are healthy. And when you give a healthy cell a mild toxin like metformin, you are forcing it into a protective state. And so let's refer to this, Jup, our home expert for today. Let's look at the ways to break down the actual clinical metabolomics of this pre-diabetes study. So, Jup, what did this 21-year follow-up actually show us?
Yes, thank you, Jodi. So let's lay out the hard science that was published in JAMA on June 15th this year, actually 2026. So what they did, for 21 years, they observed follow-up analysis of the landmark diabetes prevention program, or the DPP, and its outcome studies known as the DPPOS. And they followed over 1,100 participants for more than 2 decades. The study was named Lifestyle and Metformin Interventions and Risk of Multimorbidity in Adults with Prediabetes. And so these researchers, they tracked multimorbidity, which means developing 2 or more chronic conditions over time, including things like hypertension, cardiovascular disease, chronic kidney disease, cancer, and cognitive decline. And the results were actually quite stark. So the intensive lifestyle intervention group, which focused on diet and achieving at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercises per week, had a 21% lower risk of developing 2 chronic conditions and a 25% lower risk of developing 3. So by complete contrast, however, the group assigned to metformin did not experience a statistically significant reduction in multimorbidity risk compared to the placebo group. So the hazard ratio was 0.91, meaning it failed to show a real statistical difference.
Let me jump in here because this gets to the absolute core of our framework. Pathogenesis is the study of the root causes of disease, and that area falls into illness medicine and functional medicine. Salutogenesis, on the other hand, is a study of the root causes of health, and that area falls into health optimization medicine and practice. Metformin belongs to the disease pathway. It was designed to treat type 2 diabetes by inhibiting complex 1 of the mitochondrial electron transport chain. When you inhibit complex 1, you decrease ATP production, which increases the AMP to ATP ratio. This activates the AMP-activated protein kinase, or AMPK, which suppresses hepatic gluconeogenesis and lowers blood glucose. Actually, we have a natural cofactor that activates AMP pathway. It's called alpha-lipoic acid.
Exactly that. And while that is useful for a diabetic with profound insulin resistance and a highly dysfunctional liver, it's actually a disaster for a healthy, active individual. So let's look at the bioenergetic mechanisms of exercise. When you exercise, your skeletal muscles contract, and they create a brief acute spike in reactive oxygen species, or ROS. And temporarily, this depletes ATP. So this acute controlled cellular stress is a salutogenic signal. It tells the cell to undergo mitochondrial biogenesis, meaning to remodel and build more efficient, more coherent mitochondria to adapt to a workload. This is called mitochondrial hormesis.
But when you introduce metformin, you block that entire signal. Metformin's complex 1 inhibition blunts the exercise-induced adaptive stress response. Double-blind placebo-controlled trials have demonstrated that adding metformin to aerobic exercise actually blunts cardiovascular fitness gains, meaning your VO2 max improvement is cut in half compared to exercise alone.
Absolutely, Scott. And even worse for strength training and hypertrophy. Scott, a landmark in 2019 study showed that metformin actively blunts muscle hypertrophy and strength gains in response to progressive resistance training. And I actually see this with clients who have been on metformin, and they report the feelings of this as well. So it interferes with the mTOR pathway and mitochondrial remodeling in muscle fibers. So you're lifting the weights and taking the metformin off label. Your muscles literally cannot build the machinery to grow stronger. They comment that they can't feel like they are gaining anything, while they're in the gym.
I see this all the time clinically, Jodi. Like patients on metformin, they tell me just everything feels harder than it should normally. So, and we actually have a term for this. We call it higher rating of perceived exertion, or the RPE. So basically, I think of it like their mitochondria, they're chemically throttled here. So they're working harder for the same output. Lactic builds up faster, and they're stuck with this sort of nagging, unexplained fatigue and just generalized weakness. And what's interesting, they can't hit the gains, they can't hit their reps when they're actually trying to work out. So they're trading away actual cardiorespiratory fitness here, the single strongest predictor for all-cause mortality, for this marginally lower fasting like low glucose number. So it's really a pretty terrible trade-off.
That's why anti-aging medicine falls short here. Lifespan without healthspan is not a win. Anti-aging medicine tries to extend lifespan using off-label synbiotic drugs, but they ignore the biological peak quality of life. The target is not just longer quantity of life. The target is longer biological peak quality of life. If you are reducing your VO2 max, blunting your muscle mass, and making exercise feel harder, you're actively accelerating biological decay in the name of anti-aging.
The Health Optimization Medicine Conference is happening. 2 days of events, October 2nd and 3rd, Chicago, Illinois at the Drake Hotel. CMEs available to practitioners who need them, just 150 people, with amazing speakers on the cutting edge of health and wellness. This is a community. It's not your average conference. If you're interested, go to homehope.org and save 25% on your ticket by using Conference25 at checkout. I hope to see you there. Okay, so how do we solve this? Let's talk about the actual health optimization medicine protocol. In our framework, lifestyle advice becomes precision medicine only when health markers guide the prescription. We do not guess, we measure. And Jodi, let's walk through how we use clinical metabolomics to guide this transition away from chronic complex 1 inhibitors.
So as always, Scott, our first step is to run a comprehensive organic acids panel in wherever you are in the world. There's all different versions of this, Nutrioval, metabolomics, even Nutristat here in Australia, and to measure the actual mitochondrial metabolites. And so we assess the citric acid cycle, specifically the ratio of citrate, succinate, fumarate, and malate, to see where the biochemical bottlenecks are, was what we call them. So we check the urinary organic acids for that lactate and pyruvate to also see if there is a chronic anaerobic shift. And we also check the lipid peroxidide markers to measure the baseline oxidative stress.
Okay, so once we have those baseline cellular health markers, we establish our do this on Monday protocol. If a patient is a healthy, active individual who's currently taking metformin off-label for longevity, we transition them off the drug entirely. Instead, we optimize their natural insulin sensitivity and mitochondrial efficiency through a phased protocol. Okay, phase 1, circadian and autonomic safety. We anchor their circadian rhythm with early morning sunlight exposure and optimize sleep hygiene to support cortisol and melatonin curves naturally. Phase 2, orthomolecular cofactor support. We supply the direct raw materials for mitochondrial electron transfer, magnesium glycinate, coenzyme Q10, and active B vitamins guided by their metabolomics data. And phase 3 is phytoceutical pulsing. Instead of daily complex 1 inhibitor, we use natural glucose sensitizing epigenetic modulators like berberine or quercetin, but we enforce a strict rule. Never take these on exercise days. We only pulse them on rest days to allow the exercise-induced oxidative stress hormesis to signal biogenesis unblunted.
Yeah, that's right. And if they need targeted, non-toxic electron support, we use compounds like methylene blue, for example, Troscription's Tro Plus Blue, which serves as an alternative electron cycler, donating electrons directly to cytochrome C and bypassing complex 1 blockages entirely without neurotransmitter depletion.
Exactly. This is where Home Hope differs from lifestyle medicine. Home Hope does not prescribe lifestyle from disease markers. It prescribes lifestyle from cellular health markers. When you measure organic acids and organic metabolites, you can see exactly where the mitochondrial machinery is stalling. You can support it with the precise orthomolecular cofactors your cells evolved to use rather than introducing a synthetic drug to poison your enzymes. We're not here to prevent diseases like diabetes either. That's preventive medicine. Again, disease. We're here to optimize cellular health, and disease prevention is a beneficial side effect.
Okay, well, let's steelman the opposing case. What is the strongest argument a conventional endocrinologist or anti-aging doctor would make for keeping healthy adults on metformin for longevity? Alan, why don't you take the lead here?
Okay, so looking at metformin, it is one of the most studied, cheapest, and safest drugs that we actually have out there. We have 60 years of clinical data behind it. And let's just look at the population that we're actually treating in most of medicine, right? The majority of adults they're sedentary, they're overweight, and they have some degree of insulin resistance that they have no idea about. So for that population, metformin's actually a cheap, effective layer of protection. So, and let's be honest, who's getting 150 minutes of exercise a week? All right. Most people aren't. I barely meet that. All right. So that mild complex 1 inhibition still lowers those advanced glycation end products that we're so worried about. That's where the harm comes in. It calms and quells the systemic inflammation and mimics some of what that caloric restriction would do. So for a sedentary patient, the glucose benefit outweighs the theoretical hit to whatever adaptation that they're going to receive from exercise. So, but then again, there's no exercise adaptation happening in the first place. So where's the harm?
That's an excellent steelman, Alan, and I've heard this one a couple of times in my practice. And we fully agree. So if an individual is sedentary and has poor metabolic control and refuses to engage in physical activity, metformin is a highly effective, safe intervention to prevent diabetes and reduce glycation. But our target audience is not the sedentary pathogenic cohort. We're talking about the metabolically active, physically optimized individuals. For someone who is already actively exercising, lifting weights, eating clean, adding a complex 1 inhibitor is a profound biological mismatch. We refine our position. So metformin is a useful pathogenic tool for managing metabolic decline in sedentary individuals, but it is actually a metabolic detractor for those pursuing health optimization.
Let's deliver our take-home 3 for today. Jodi, give us the first one.
Number 1, metformin is a mitochondrial complex 1 inhibitor, not a longevity supplement. While it does lower blood glucose in diabetes in healthy individuals, this is a mitochondrial blockade and blunts cardiorespiratory fitness gains by up to 50%. And it also prevents muscle hypertrophy. So stop taking a metabolic poison to optimize when you have a healthy cell.
Yes, and takeaway number 2, the 21-year DPPOS follow-up study published in JAMA proves that lifestyle, not metformin, prevents chronic multimorbidity, intensive diet and exercise / long-term multi-illness risk by over 20%, while metformin showed no statistically significant benefit over placebo. Lifestyle is the ultimate longevity intervention.
Takeaway number 3, never take glucose-sensitizing phytoceuticals on exercise days. Natural adaptogens like berberine and quercetin are powerful tools, but they must be pulsed strictly on rest days. This allows exercise-induced oxidative hormesis to signal mitochondrial biogenesis completely unblunted.
As we close today's discussion, let's tie this back to the foundational principles of health optimization medicine and practice. Prevention is the prevention of disease and still remains disease-centered. Health optimization is health-centered. When we use off-label medications to force a single numeric biomarker like fasting glucose, we are operating in a pathogenic framework. We're trying to prevent disease by manipulating a disease marker.
Exactly, yeah. In Home Hope, our goal is salutogenesis, building and sustaining cellular coherency and metabolic safety. We don't want to poison an enzyme to lower glucose. We want to supply the mitochondria with the exact orthomolecular cofactors, vitamins, and minerals they need to produce ATP efficiently. We detoxify heavy metals like mercury or arsenic that block the ATP production cycle. We focus on neotenization, meaning the youthful, highly efficient, and adaptive cellular energy production of a healthy 21 to 30-year-old. Health is A plus B plus C, an optimal physiologic state characterized by A, the absence of disease, and B, the maintenance of the balance between anabolism and catabolism, according to C, the cycle of life of the organism. When your cells have bioenergetic harmony and the exposome is optimized, your body naturally regulates glucose, manages inflammation, and sustains cellular safety without synthetic interference.
Well, that was a genuinely eye-opening and what real cellular bioenergetics actually looks like. So if you're a healthcare practitioner listening, a physician, or just a health coach, or you're just interested in improving your own health, head over to homehope.org. Our clinical metabolomics and bioenergetics certification will hand you the actual frameworks, the testing protocols, and the orthomolecular guidelines to optimize your patients from the cell up. Again, that's homehope.org. Join the health optimization movement. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening, everyone.